Anyway, let's jump straight into the series. It was really great to see all the Quake players back in action and some fresh faces there. I'm sure everyone's really excited, but we've only got one match to concentrate on now, which is Sib versus Whaz. What's your take on this?
I mean, this is going to be a very interesting matchup, right? Sib, obviously very hungry to get back into the Quake Pro League. He's been working hard, and he's looking ready to go as well, as we've got the picks and bans ahead of us. Looks like Veil and Blood Covenant were removed, and Whaz actually going with the clutch ban. Sib talked to me about that a few days ago, saying that he'd been practicing the clutch a little bit, like kind of not out in the open, really, but the word got out, and so Whaz just didn't want to take any risk and got rid of the robots straight away. So that means that we've got Ranger versus Aizen on Corrupted Keep first.
Yes, we do. And Corrupted Keep is a map where Whaz can really use that aggression and pace to his advantage. It's the way he likes to play. Normally we would see potentially the more heavy movement-based champions coming out, I think things like Anarchy and Slash, but a Ranger is just as good to move around the map in that sense. And so you were saying earlier in the day that Sib hasn't been entirely confident in his aim, which is not always a good sign, particularly on maps like Corrupted Keep, where you can keep that pressure on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's been talking a little bit about how he's not been feeling entirely confident in his technical skill.
Right.
Hopefully now that he's been in Poland for a little longer, he's had the time to practice on the setup that we've got going here as well. It's getting a little better, I hope at least. It seemed to be going that way yesterday, but it's still something to keep in mind.
And it's always one of those things where it's like 50-50 on that, right?
That's also something I feel like we should prod into a little bit here. Dan, you being a former Quake competitor, obviously you've been in a LAN environment many a time.
Yes, sir.
You flexed your muscles, you've broken a few mice over your time.
Occasionally.
Who is this going to affect the most? Do you feel like this is where Whaz can walk in and really just play his style? Is this going to be too much of a mental game, being on LAN, in Poland, at AM?
I think like it's one of those things where Whaz now is got a huge amount of pedigree behind him, right? Even Quake Live, Quake Champions, he's been around the block quite a few times, and you should be assumed to be quite stable in these settings. Like it shouldn't really affect him, but at the same time, he's the one going in with a bit of pressure on his shoulders. Like he's coming from the Pro League. He's the guy that is in that relegation spot for a reason, and so past performances always plays an impact on your current state of mind. But I would say Whaz is experienced enough to be able to handle this one.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Whaz not really living up to the hype during the online stage. I think he only won 2 matchups in the second stage, but clearly he's a player with a lot of history, a whole lot of experience, and as you briefly mentioned, he's got the mechanical and the technical skill to back it up. He's more of a team mode player, really, traditionally or historically at least, than a dual player, but obviously that has given him some really solid fundamentals to work on.
And what about with Sib? Because I feel like, as we did discuss a little bit, is confidence going to be a major issue for him? We know he can hit some ridiculously sick shots. In stage 1, he had some fantastic games. Obviously, unfortunately, relegated out of the tournament. He comes back. This is his chance to get, once again, back into Quake Pro League. Surely that motivation's got to take over.
It does, but when you're coming into an event and you're stating your aim isn't feeling too good, I'm not on my best place, like that's never a good sign, right? You need to be coming in with the right mindset. And as you said, like going out relegated before, that's always going to be on your mind. Like, is that going to happen again? You can second guess yourself a little bit too much. And one of the other things to think about is these guys are from the same region. Like, it's not like he's going against something that's a bit of unknown. Like, if they practice against each other a lot, is there going to be overthinking going into it? So there's so many dynamics going into play here.
Oh yeah, and I also think that maybe experience at LAN and a bit of the nerves might come into play as well, because Whaz obviously has got a lot of LAN tournaments under his belt, whereas Sib is still a relatively new entry into the top level of the Quake competitive scene. So he quite clearly isn't as experienced, maybe not as confident and comfortable playing up on the big stage in front of everyone. So I hope he'll be able to deal with those nerves.
All right, well, let me put you on a fence now, as I want to really get into it. You've seen the picks and bans. We've gone over the veto. Based on what you've seen, who are you favouring? I'll start with you, Dan.
Thank you. I'm going to say Whaz 3-1.
I'm also going to favour Whaz, but I'm going to say 3-2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot closer of a series. Why?
Absolutely. I mean, I just think Sib, he's determined, right? And it's in his name, Sib Raw, that's his nickname, right? He's got the raw talent to make it happen. When he hits his stride, he really can make some amazing things happen. And I think he's in the right state of mind, and I really hope he can bring that to his game as well.
The reason for me is experience from Whaz, a better all-round mechanical skill set from my experience of watching the two of them. I think those two interplay is going to come into fact. And I think even though we see Whaz right down in the relegation, he hasn't been steamrolled. Like, he took a map off Rafa, which is like one of the only people to do so, right?
Ever.
Like, he comes into this with that staple backbone, and I think that's going to be enough to get him over with convincing victory.
Okay, so there is a lot of faith obviously behind their Whaz, purely based off, respectively so and rightfully so, his past achievements in what he's done.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Yeah.
All right, I hope we do get a fairly tight game. Obviously, Flea, I've got to agree with you. I think this one is going to go the whole hog because, Dan, you know what I mean? I would normally.
You loved me.
I feel like you're wrong on this one. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I'm coming in there hard. I'm really jabbing in there. I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, I think Sib's been looking good, and I do agree with you. I feel like purely based off the determination, this is going to be where he plays hopefully some of his best Quake yet. It's on LAN. It's a fantastic environment, right?
Don't get me wrong. We're going to see a great match, and I want that to happen. But I have to stick with my guns here.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Man of my word.
Determined for the blowout.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if they can make a mockery of you on the server, Dan.
No, that's going to happen.
No.
Never has, never will.
Don't agree. Well, what is your key to victory then? If there is an opportunity here for Sib to slide in, take away what essentially would be an upset, requalify for the league, how do you think that starts?
He has to stick with the basics. Like, he needs to just play his game. Don't overthink it. That's at least one of the things I came to coming to big LAN events. Is you go in, you think you have to change what you're playing because it's a new stage, it's a big setting. You're in the frame. But if you do what works for you at home, feel comfortable, and just play the basics, get the items, get your rotation, and just do the simple stuff, like, things will happen. You keep getting close, and then if you keep getting close, you can sneak a victory. So I think that can rattle Whaz a little bit. If he doesn't hit his shots in, unless that gets to his head, that's where we might see him sliding off.
Flea?
I think if he's going to win it, it's mainly going to be on strategy. Like you said, Whaz has definitely got the upper hand when it comes to the mechanical skill, but as I said earlier, he's more of a team player traditionally, right? So Sib, if he can outplay him, if he can keep better control of the items and just outthink him, out-strategize his opponent, I think that's what's going to be key.
So what's really rough as well is whoever progresses from this point forward obviously goes on to play Rafa, so it's really going to be a North American bloodbath throughout the tournament. It's going to be hard opening this one up.
Yeah, this is a scrap for survival here. Like, this is why this match coming up first is so important for both these players, because as we said, like, anyone loses, that's it, game over, go home.
But they can't think that far ahead, right? No one should be thinking about, oh god, I'm going to go up against Rafa even if I win this. They need to think about, this is to get or stay in the Pro League, and that's all that matters right now. Rafa, we'll deal with him if we get there, but first of all, this is the match we need to win.
Yeah, across each bridge as you come to it. Hopefully we'll get to see a really tight affair that will give us that storyline. I feel like I've got a root for the underdog. I do believe Sib has the drive to do it. I also am very interested to see how he actually plays, because he's been discussing a lot about the fact he's been adapting his playstyle in terms of his normal weapon rotation with his arsenal. He's been coming off LG a little bit more, trying to do more rail, more rocket. Do you think that's going to affect him, potentially switching his playstyle, so sort of last minute?
It's exactly what I said, right? Like, for me, I'm not in favor of that. Like, you've got here on the merit of what you've been doing well.
Okay.
And that is a sign. If it's something as recent as because he's here, that's a sign for me of, again, a bit of a nerves and thinking you have to adjust on the big stage when you don't. Like, he proved himself in the past. He showed the potential. Like, do what you are strong at. Don't feel that you have to alter your game. Yeah. But and we'll see how it goes. But for me, that's a sign of overthinking it and potentially pushing yourself out of your comfort zone even further. Okay, well, he mentioned that as well when we were talking to him a few days ago in the evening. He basically said that one of the things that he'd been working on is adapting quickly during the game. If he was faced in a situation where he felt like his LG just isn't working, he was just like, you know what, I'm going to switch to rockets. I'm going to switch to my rail because I know that these are working. So if he can bring it to the stage today, I think that might really work in his favor. That makes sense.
Yeah. I think in terms of adaptation, that could really be an extra tool in his tool belt that he's going to need, because it's the big stage. This is it. If you want to get back to the QPL.
So it's more of an evolution.
It is.
In a change of
He's gone away. He's had his down period. He's learnt a Texas two-step, and he's come back.
He's a Charizard, not a Charmeleon.
There you go.
Yeah.
That kind of holds true for all the players here, I think, right? Because so many players here traditionally, they didn't get to play Quake that much, right? They played ahead of a major tournament and that was it. But now with the Pro League, they have to compete every single week. So you're going to see a lot of improvements and these gradual changes over time when players are figuring out what works well, what doesn't, what works against a specific player, maybe what are my strengths and weaknesses. So I do think we're seeing quite a bit of an evolution when it comes to that.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And it looks like we're almost ready to get underway with our opening game here of the tournament. It's a big one. It's going to be a spicy boy, a relegation match to see who can re-qualify for the QPL. If Whaz can stay on and live true to his name with a razzle-dazzle, or if Sib is going to be finding his way back through. One last time, boys. You're both going for Whaz, 100% confidence. You feel like he's taking this?
Yeah, and 3-1's a punchy prediction.
Yeah.
But I'm sticking to it.
Wishful thinking from both
It's going to be an interesting match, as we say. Strategy versus Brawl. And I hope Brawl wins, because that's my forte.
That's your go-to.
Yeah.
Not much brain.
No, definitely not. No. Pretty, though.
Yeah, it's an interesting strategy for an analyst, but it pays off most of the time, Dan.
It works, Big John's not going to say no to me. So.
No. Yeah, you get what you want.
No.
That's just how it works.
I didn't get a jacket like that, though. Like,
I don't think it would fit. I don't think your biceps
maybe we should
allow
try
for
between sets.
jackets as a whole. Yeah, we can try and make it work.
Yeah. Sure.
We'll slip it on. We could all rotate.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm down. Like,
you're the odd
yeah.
one out. You have gone jacketless. I feel like you've let us all down, but hopefully this game will not let us down. It's time for Whaz taking on Sib. Fleas, NSX, take it away.
Yeah, straight into Corrupted Keep.
Yeah.
Here we go, off the bat. We have Whaz picking up that heavy armor, but at the same time, Sib did pick up the Mega and it's an even split. Off the fight, but we're straight into a brawl. Rockets going on, but not too much damage coming out either side.
Yeah, good play from Whaz, because he did manage to deny the rockets to Sib, and that is, of course, an important weapon on Corrupted Keep, doing a decent amount of damage. Actually, Sib on the run, he doesn't have the same weaponry to take that long-distance fight. Whaz looping back around. He needs the LG, but he knows he's done a lot of damage. Can he finish Sib off? Sib running for his life.
Yeah, no need to push in too fast, as I said. He's just trying to rocket jump up. He still has the orb available if he needs it, but decides to back off. He does have a bit of time to get over to that Mega if he needs to. Sib will still be low because he hasn't had an awful lot of time to pick up any armor. Still hasn't got the rocket though. This is a really big opportunity for Whaz here to just dominate this map.
That exit from the LG just isn't working for Sib. He's taken so much heavy machine gun damage both times that he had to get out of the room, and now Whaz finally getting his hands on the LG 1 minute into the game. Clearly Whaz having the upper hand right now. Sib trying to play a little bit more passively, trying to find some of those small armors that he desperately needs.
Yeah, Whaz could have gone on for that Mega. If I was him, that would have been the preferable option, but playing it safe. As the game settles down now, Flea, we didn't get an awful lot of time to talk about the matchup. What do you think of this Eisen pick?
The item pick?
Eisen.
Oh, the Eisen pick. Okay, sorry about that. I mean, Eisen pick, it's interesting on a map like Corrupted Keep, right? There's definitely a few interesting places that you can use the turret well, like put it at the end of the teleporter, in the middle of the room during the fights. A lot of variety, and I think this definitely is one of the maps that Eisen works pretty well on.
Yeah, Whaz not having any idea when that Mega is up. We saw him teasing it out, waiting for it to spawn, but Sib done a good job now of stabilizing this, getting that rocket, and now we really are on even keel. Whaz does get the timing, that's big.
Yeah, I'm actually a little less certain about Whaz's pick. Ranger is not the kind of champion you see all that often on this map, because the mobility advantage that you get out of the orb really isn't that high, but here we go. Sib setting up a trap. Whaz completely taken off guard. This is a massive fight. Whaz breaking away. The turret is still there dealing damage. Sib, can he push this? Now also decides to play a little safe. Oh, here we go. That's the first frag of the Stage 2 finals, and it is going to Sib.
I was about to say, I have no idea how no one's died, but Sib does manage to sneak around, and this time he has got Whaz cornered. He should be able to push him for a kill, but Whaz is doing an awful lot of damage from range. Sib not hitting as much as he needs to, and pushing in with that lightning gun. Pretty even now, backing off there. Sib still in a good position on the upper ground, controlling the rocket area. That's one of the key moments on this map, is ensuring you can isolate your opponent away from that rocket, because if they can't get access to it, they just cannot afford to take any fights against you. And this is why we see Whaz not really being able to exit safely.
Yeah, he did manage to get away with the heavy though. Oh, that's an excellent rocket. Whaz can't really push in. He's gonna do it anyways, using the orb to get the better positioning. Now Mega is up. Whaz will just dive bomb it, and he is back in control. Sib taking a lot of machine gun damage once again. Has to get away. He's gonna get some information from the turret, but Whaz with the flyby rocket to tie things up.
Yeah, I think Sib might be a little bit frustrated about that, because that's definitely not a kill Whaz should have been getting. Like, he was trapped, he didn't have the rocket. Sib, his positioning was not good enough to prevent Whaz from just stealing both major items and the rocket.
Oh yeah, and also
position he shouldn't have been in.
And also that opening rocket, Sib hit the direct, and Whaz just didn't care at all, pushed in regardless. Sib will be taking away the Mega, and I think he picked it up just after that rocket, so he's quite healthy. LG trying to push away Whaz. This is a bad situation for either player. Sib, Whaz kind of overextending there, right? He seemed to have the upper hand at the start, but then he pushed too far into the room and didn't have a clear path out.
Yeah, I mean, this whole playstyle from Whaz at the moment seems like a little bit of a lack of respect, because it's, as we're on the wrong UI, he's not giving Sib the respect he deserves in terms of playstyle. I think this comes back to what you're saying. They might have been practicing together, and online perhaps Whaz is able to take full control, but when it comes to this map, he's just showing no respect, and it's not paying off just yet, as Sib is in control here, able to pick up and isolate Whaz in that heavy armor area, as we are on Sib's pod. Whaz, once again, just wrong place, wrong time. And it does feel to me that Sib's strategy in this sense is understanding of what Whaz wants to do. So this is why we see Sib's not committing for the items. He's just backing off. He's fully appreciated what Whaz wants to do and seems to be just controlling the map a lot better.
Yep. Next item up is heavy. Both players slowly heading towards that major item. Sib has the better positioning, but Whaz actually doing some nice damage over there. I really like Whaz's use of the heavy machine gun so far. I think it's probably been his most damaging weapon. Look at that. Every single opportunity he gets, he just pellets Sib with those 15s, and is really working out for him in terms of damage. But Sib, as you said, he's got the better control of the map, and so he can easily eat right back up and heal away the pain.
Yeah. It's stabilizing now, 3-1, but we do 5 minutes to go on this map is a long time. I do fear for Sib if Whaz is able to get control, because although Sib is in the lead, and then as we said, has kind of been retrospectively playing this map better, he hasn't been able to pick up anywhere near as many major items. So although Whaz is pushing him rather recklessly, he is getting the major items, which kind of nullifies Sib's advantage to a little bit. But we can see Sib is just playing that positional game, whereas Whaz is just crazily charging through the map. Oh, wow, what a rocket there. Whaz still going in for some reason, comes away with the kill. That was, again, a very ballsy move, but this time it does pay off.
Yeah, let's see if he can make something out of it, because as you mentioned, this is a map where things can change quickly. One frag can easily snowball into quite a few, because you can just chain together those frags before your opponent really has a chance to get his bearings. If you play your cards right, looks like Whaz is focused more on stacking right back up rather than changing frags or chasing frags, rather Sib landing a nice little rocket, but it is Whaz who's got the stack.
Exactly, and it completely turned on its head because of the fact that Sib wasn't putting enough emphasis on preventing Whaz from getting those major items. Yes, he had the better positioning. Yes, he had control, but Whaz was the one making all the moves and just showing actually no respect, and Sib is going to go down here. Yes, he does a lot of damage, but there is time to pick up this heavy, restack on health, and once again, Whaz will be coming out on top.
I hope for Sib's sake that he has timing on the Mega and that he can at least secure that, or deny it, rather.
Oh, he jumps off too early!
I don't think he had timing, and that's punishing LG right there. Whaz now looking all the better, going back around, small armor denial as well. Sib landing a good amount of LG though. This is a close one. Oh, the tribal around the corner. That was far too aggressive.
Yeah, yeah, it happened. One of those things where it was the right move, but this time Sib was able to stand his ground, but Whaz pushing in. I mean, he even saw the turret, so that was just hugely risky. 3 minutes to go and you're one frag in it. Maybe he thought it was worth it.
I think Whaz just maybe isn't giving enough respect. Like he's at the worst range for Tribal right now, and he just took 2 huge shots, and Sib will finish that one off. He, again, not showing the respect that Sib is due, peeking out at perfect Tribal range, and that's a lot of damage coming out right there. And now Whaz, 3-5.
And this was Whaz's pick as well, so he obviously went into this with a clear strategy in mind, of just wanting to bully Sib. And he's just charging at him, but Sib playing tactfully, backing off, but once again, he's not on time for that major item when he really had plenty of opportunity to get set up there. So Sib definitely needs to be playing more conscious effort of playing those major items, playing the basics like we said at the start of this game. Good chip damage coming out, meaning once again Whaz is not as the stack as he needs, but can back off to that heavy. Sib is nowhere in sight.
Sib is using the turret very nicely as well. He constantly has it up when he takes these fights with Whaz, and even if it's just a bullet or 2 free, it helps out a lot. That's 45-50 damage coming out of your turret. But Whaz, again, closing the gap slightly. He's 1 frag behind. 2 minutes left to go on a map like Corrupted Keep. Absolutely possible. Sib now forced onto the defensive.
But this poor timing from Sib is really killing him. He tried to set up for that Mega 8 seconds early, and we all know what Whaz is going to do. Sib knows what Whaz is going to do. He needs to try and cut off those channels where Whaz is pushing through, because Whaz is just not relenting whatsoever. This time Sib does get the heavy and gets out relatively cleanly, but Whaz is going to push in. He doesn't want to let up at all, but this time corners him and pushes back for the Mega. Bit more sensible from Whaz.
Very good decision from Whaz, because if he had pushed right there, I mean, it was a 50-50 shot, right? Both players had basically identical stack, the same weapon out, so that could have gone either way. Very clever decision from Whaz to just back up, get the Mega health, because if he would have died there, that could have really been GG. With 1:30 left, 2 frags down, this is a lot more doable.
This could be the frag as Sib is again quite early, and Whaz knows it.
Yeah, good play from Whaz, pushing Sib off the heavy, taking it for himself. Can he find his opponent though?
He can. Sib is stuck. He's really low. Whaz is not going to relent here.
Oh, jumping a little bit too far. Whaz, can Sib still get out?
Great rocket.
Oh, I think Whaz might regret that. He just overstepped it a little bit, and then he let Sib get out of that tiny corner he was hiding in. The pressure's on now. 30 seconds left to go. Where is Sib? Can Whaz find him? He was right below him.
Wow. Sib is just playing. It's like the gecko the BBC series. Other programs are available, but nevertheless, I think only British guys might get that reference. Sib has managed to escape. He's just charging around, but can't find any light armor or heavy armor or mega health. Sib is just on the run for overtime right now.
Whaz. Oh, there he goes. He's catches sight of Sib. Can he make the rocket jump up? Out comes the turret. Whaz, he won't be able to find him. Sib gets out with a 1 frag lead. That was impressive from Sib. The dodging, the evasion, top tier.
Yeah, I mean, that was something else. I, for a moment there, thought it was 5-5 and Sib was just trying for his life, but I completely, just clocked out for a second. Sib, he didn't play perfectly. Whaz overextended a huge amount of times. It was, again, I think it's a strategy thing where they had played together potentially a lot online, and he just felt that he could bully Sib on LAN, and it was working out to a degree, but I think that map should settle both of them down a little bit. Whaz needs to go kind of look and reflect on the fact that he did make countless mistakes in pushing and slightly too aggressively sometimes, whereas Sib needs to assert himself more on the map. I felt that his positioning was spot on. He was reacting to what Whaz was doing in circumstances, but I just felt he could have been better placed to prevent Whaz from pushing in as easily as he was a lot of the time.
Absolutely. I think Sib, he definitely didn't play a perfect game himself, but Whaz just made so many mistakes and gave his opponent far too many opportunities, and Sib just ultimately, he managed to run away with that. Like, look at some of these situations. Whaz just pushing in hyper aggressively. Sometimes it works out for him, but very often it didn't.
Yeah, and if I'm playing right now and I'm looking at this, I wouldn't be that worried as Whaz. Like, Whaz made so many mistakes, but it was still a 5-4 game. He let Sib have all the positioning. He kind of just ran the map himself, took all the items, and didn't feel any pressure. So if I'm Whaz, just clean that up, round it a little bit, and you should be taking that map fairly comfortably. But on the counter, like, if I'm Sib now, that's 1 map under the belt. Like, you were feeling nervous coming into it. That's an amazing start.
His aim also looked pretty decent.
For sure.
I must say, right? We didn't see any amazing shots or amazing strains of LG, but overall, I feel like his aim is more than enough than what he needs.
And then that's probably the reason why he run, because Whaz was going into a lot of these fights expecting to win, and there was some fights where he was so outgunned, like, it was not in his favor whatsoever, and he still pushed in. Turret MVP, though. That turret did a lot of work.
I wish we could see some stats on how much damage the turret did. But yeah, Sib, turret placement, excellent. So many times he just had the turret set up in the same room, even not in the same position as him, but just taking a slightly different angle at the doorway or something. Whaz pushes in, Sib is pelting in with his own LG or machine gun, and then out of nowhere, the turret is just like pop, 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 and the damage starts adding up on Whaz, and before he knows it, gone is his stack.
But looking back on the map, in all respect to Sib, he did a great job of doing enough chip damage to Whaz to make sure when those situations arise, Sib was always in a perfect position to at least contest. Yes, he got overhauled a few times, but there was times where Whaz was coming in with a lot lesser stack because of the damage around and about Sib had done with the long-range rockets, with the heavy machine gun, etc. So he did a great job in that regard and in keeping his distance. But again, there was no rail, and that's a core part of Whaz's game. And when we see the rail come out, we definitely see a big shift in the way in which Whaz plays maps, because he can fall back on that reliance as well.
Oh yeah, Whaz's railgun is definitely a sight to behold, and that might be a decisive factor in the next map, right? Because Corrupted Keep, the only map in the pool that doesn't have a railgun on it, so that completely changes the dynamics. You can see players adapt to it by using the heavy machine gun at long range, the 15 damage a shot, absolutely nothing to laugh at, but still, railgun just reigns supreme at long distance, and we might really see that change things up.
But it begs the question about then, why did Whaz pick first off the bat Corrupted Keep? Do you think it was just for him to look to set that tempo, to make a mark, to just show Sib that you can't keep up with me? Like, what's the thinking?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it might have very well been, right? Because if Whaz would have absolutely just bullied Sib on this map and just showed overwhelming firepower in every engagement, that might have really started eating away at Sib. But things definitely backfired as we're jumping into map 2. This is Molten Falls, and we're seeing our first Crouch Light champion of the day.
We do, and from Sib, we see the Visor, and this is a map where you can slow that tempo down, particularly using a Visor. If you can pick up enough of those time vials and keep a really strong uptime on your piercing sight, you can just maintain that distance game. And I think that's the tack Sib is going to go for, judging off of what we saw from Corrupted Keep. Whereas Whaz, we know what he likes to play. He does have that Crouch Light champion. He loves the rail, so we're going to see a lot of fast-paced play coming out from Whaz and a lot of railing, I'm guessing.
I really like the fact that Sip already used Peeker, because I feel like that's a common mistake when people use Strog. They just use him for the crouch light and to pick up the health bubbles that the opponents drop when they get a frag, but that just gives their opponent free reign of just cycling through all of the hourglasses. And here we go, we almost see our first frag. Whaz reigning supreme so far. Sip escaping with a sliver of health, as Whaz is just collecting some more items, decides not to deny the small armor right there.
Yep, and I just noticed I got the champions backwards. That's my bad. Nevertheless, the point still stands with regards to
Absolutely.
Visor in the vials. We can see, I think this is the third piercing sight in the first minute and a half, might be the second. So Whaz putting a good emphasis on that, and it just gives you such an advantage when you can maintain those upside.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's a bit of a missed opportunity though. Whaz has not denied either of those two small armors, whereas he knew that Sip had nothing to work with instead of armor, but still he's letting Sip comfortably stack right back up. Like all the armor that Sip has, Whaz could have easily denied with just one nail gun at his feet earlier, but right now he's giving his opponent literally a way back into the match.
And we can already see a huge mistiming coming out of Whaz there, but I guess appreciating now when it has been picked up and should have a rough idea of when it is going to be again respawning. He does have the piercing sight again, and that's a great opportunity to use it as Sip is stuck, which means Whaz can also get across to the Mega if he's fast enough, unless Sip wants to push in, which would have been dangerous. If Whaz committed there, we would have seen our big first fight. The Picker comes out and he knows where he is. This engagement is big as Whaz hits almost two directs and finishes off with the rail. Perfect play coming out from Whaz there.
Oh yeah, the double rocket bouncing Sip up in the air and then the rail to finish it off. Excellent from Whaz. We might see another engagement right here. Sip missing the rail. That would have opened up some avenues for him, but at least he's going to be able to collect that heavy armor. And now Whaz, he knows more or less when the Mega is, has got the better position. Here we go, using the piercing sight sneakily. 1, 2, can't hit the third one. And Sip will get out alive for now.
And already we're seeing that railgun come into play, emphasizing how much Whaz likes it. It's been the core weapon in the first 3 minutes of this game. But Whaz missing out on timing. That's something he shouldn't be doing at this stage in the game when he had such strong control after those rails. Again, he's quite early for this item, and Sip knows it, pushes him for those rockets. Whaz is going to go down.
And Sip is even going to be able to collect the heavy right there. Whaz, as you just mentioned, maybe a little bit too early to take the position on the item. I don't think it was so much a miss time, but rather just assuming he was safe when he really wasn't. Sip just using the Peeker to get some information.
Ooh, that was close.
Yep, nice play. At least he knows exactly where Whaz is right now. Rails are being exchanged. Whaz has got the piercing side up. Sip can tell he takes so much damage, 2 HP. Whaz no doubt wants to chase this, but instead, he decides to let his opponent live. That's a very Rafa-style play, you know, just not chasing, but rather prioritizing items and control.
Once again, Whaz going to be too late for this Mega? He would have been. He's still not taking it. Sip obviously not sticking around to risk that when he really could have taken it and got out quite easily, but Whaz has full control now. There's a good 10-second split on the items, more or less, which gives plenty of time to get between the two, no matter what champion you're playing.
Yeah.
So Sip has to play very carefully here, but Whaz is pulling him, and that will be an easy kill going in for Whaz to take the lead.
Yeah, and now Whaz, he should be able to set up a very nice rotation. He's going to be able to deny the small armor too, gets himself heavy, 5 seconds to go to Mega. I think he realizes he's too late. He can't catch up with the Strog. That opponent has just got the raw speed. He's still gonna try and make a move. Sip, the defensive rockets have to be great right now.
Oh, that was super close. That last rocket just giving him enough hang time to sneak away. He wouldn't have died, would have put him very, very low indeed. We do have a little bit of time as both players now do push back to play a little bit safer. Whaz not knowing where he is.
Sip sure as hell does. There he goes, jumping down on his prey with the LG out. Whaz lands a nice rail though, but that rocket, the defensive rocket in retaliation, stacks are pretty similar. Sip's got a slight lead, but Whaz has picked up the Mega right now, so and armor as well. Whaz definitely the one with the better stack for the time being. That next major item, the heavy, is going to be an important one. I think both players feeling healthy enough to challenge for it, so it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this.
I'm also pretty sure that Sip heard that piercing sight, so feeling a bit more confident at pushing through those walkways. Although Whaz did have a good protective space behind that pillar and is able to get out relatively cleanly as that rail just misses with the double jump. And they both come away cleanly. Whaz not in a position to set up for Mega, but hits that rail, which means Sip has to be particularly careful. Ooh.
That's a bad miss. He had the piercing side up as well. That's not something you want to do at this level because it gives your opponent such free reign of the map. You can tell Sip right now pressuring out towards the center of the map a bit more, keeping that heavy behind him. He's got the timing, knows when to drop on it, and he knows that Whaz has no possibility of contending.
No, and that light armor has gone as well. This one over on the Mega side also. So Whaz is in a little bit of a predicament as he has lost out on both major items. Now railed, no piercing sight. Whaz just has to run, and Sip knows it.
Yep, 50 HP, almost anything will kill him right now, but those defensive rockets, that's pretty good. Sip will end up tying things up 2-2. But Whaz did a decent amount. Can he do anything into the peaker? Nope.
Oh, that was close.
The little duck, right? He crouched for a moment.
Yeah,
excellent play.
A little bit predictive from Whaz coming out there because Sip read that like a book. The fact that Whaz needed armor does get hit in that banana space. Both pretty hurt here. Nevertheless, Whaz can just about pick up the Mega health.
He still hasn't taken it. There we go. He will get his hands on it, but I'm really impressed by Whaz's defensive plays right now because Sip was outstacking him majorly, and yet he just managed to turn it around like that. A few decent rockets. Sip not picking up the health bubble, staying at that 72 threshold.
I don't think Whaz either knew the timing or knew how low Sip was. Nevertheless, they both do get away, and it's pretty much a stalemate as they have relatively even stacks. Whaz probably just in a slightly beneficial position, but he does use the piercing sight to no avail, so again...
And Sip saw it.
Exactly.
Sip clearly saw that the piercing sight had been used, so he knows his opponent doesn't have that ability to work with for another 20 seconds or so he can take some advantage of that. Will find Whaz. The LG is coming out. Doesn't look perfect, but it'll do it in the end. Sip a 3-2 lead with just 3 minutes left on the clock.
And this is a big lead on this map, especially using Stronger Pika where you can get away, but I don't expect Sip to be too aggressive now. I just, like we said at the start, play the basics and you've definitely got this map in the bag. Doesn't commit for the Mega, which is smart, but can he hit a fadeaway rail? That's what he wants to hit here.
Yep.
But he's just going to chase. He knows Whaz isn't got the healthiest stack in the world.
Still though, that's dangerous. Sip just pushing and taking a lot of damage. Whaz just chasing him down, doesn't land the final rocket, and that's gonna mean...
Nice rocket.
Yeah.
This is the rail, though. That could be dangerous. Whaz is coming through. Can he fade away? He does. They're both low. Whaz got a lot more health, though. There is 5 seconds to go.
Nice. Good peeker coming out right there.
Yes.
That is going to slow down Whaz a bit. Without that peeker damage, I think that Whaz could have made a big move on Mega, but this time around it will be Sip to take it and slip away by the skin of his teeth. Here we go, Whaz again aggressively pushing.
He is aggressively pushing, but Sip is reading these moves. There's not really a time in the last few minutes where Sip has been caught off guard, so he's definitely understanding what Whaz wants to do, and he's taking up these good positions, just picking off Whaz. He's actually getting a first shot quite a lot of the times. Although this time Whaz does get that rail. You don't want to have a rail duel with Whaz. No one really wins those. He hears Whaz pushing in. He needs to get out of there.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that Sip is still applying pressure though, because running away against a visor, especially in this Whaz with his rail skills on a map like this, that's not something you want to do 2 minutes ahead of time, right? Maybe for the last 30 seconds you can try and go for it.
But as you say that, Whaz does pick up the Mega and the Heavy back-to-back without any pressure. This means it is pretty much free reign to push in. Anything, a lick of anything's going to kill him, and that's a great spot with the rocket.
Beautiful read too, absolutely. He didn't need the piercing sight for that, he just read his opponent perfectly, lands.
Oh no!
Rocket, no, Whaz!
Oh no!
Off the map he goes with 50 seconds left on the clock. Sip is going to be smiling after that one. What even happened?
He tried to rocket jump and got railed at the same time.
Oh my goodness, Whaz.
Off the map. I was just about to say, Whaz is in a beautiful position to take this map, but suddenly Sip turns it around out of nowhere. And Whaz has to move on as he gets hit with that direct rocket. He is low, but he knows there's only 30 seconds left, and he's got flashbacks, PTSD to corrupt and keep. He can't let Sip run. Great rocket coming out from Sip here. There is only 20 seconds left. They're both railable as Sip now just picks up enough. Whaz is in so much trouble.
Sip had a really good opportunity to go to this side of the map because there's more resources available for him to stack up. He's even going to go for the heavy. Whaz is above him. Yeah, perfect escapism right there.
5 seconds. Can Whaz do anything? A telefrag, anything?
No.
And that is G.
Oh, good read, but
G.
Yeah. Man. What, Dan, are we going to be wrong? Is this going to be a 3-0 for Sip?
Holy crap. That was, that's some way to lose a map. Like,
oh my God.
That's some way to lose a map. When you've come from behind and Sib was playing really well, just to be fair to him, right? Whaz has managed to keep in the game that whole time. He's managed to then get back control. He had a full stack. He couldn't have been any stronger. He had Sib on the ropes, and to die like that, oh man, that would tilt the hell. I would break a mouse. I would definitely break a mouse.
If he,
particularly one of the little, you know, the little holy ones now, that would just crumble like some sort of Egyptian mummy.
I don't doubt it, man. But right now, like, that's something that's gonna haunt you, right? If Whaz loses and he drops out of the Quake Pro League, he's going to be thinking
Because of that frag.
about that frag.
Yeah, you didn't see it, right? So it's gonna be in a second here.
Oh man,
it was glorious.
I blinked and oh no. Okay, well, you all saw it. You can rewind yourself, but man,
oh my god!
at least he looks like he's not taking it too poorly, right? If you look at the player cam right now, Wes still looks calm and collected, a bit of a smile on his face.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm eating a bit of humble pie now. It is that 2-0 already, but at the same time, let's reflect on the fact that as Whaz is so experienced, like he's been in positions before where you've gone down couple of maps, like, and it's one of those things, and it's the age-old edict, right? It's not over till it's over. Take a map at a time. And this is the time where you have to say, all right, let's just wipe the slate clean. He should have won that map in hindsight, right?
Oh yeah.
If he played the way he was playing and it all played out perfectly, he would have won that map. He was in the perfect position. Sib had nothing, so it was a freak frag. It was a great fadeaway rail, and it did the job. Did more than the job. It did like a 300 damage rail, but it did the job. So taking a map at a time, like map 1 was rusty, it wasn't good. Map 2 was a lot cleaner, he looked a lot stronger with the rail. We saw more variety and flexibility in his game. Let's start from 0. It's a best of 3 now.
I mean, if anyone's going to be able to do it, Whaz is definitely one of the people who's got the experience, right, to be able to deal with it. But nevertheless, even for top-tier players, losing maps like that really just grinds at you. It makes it difficult to come back, makes it difficult and challenging to reset your mindset going to the next one.
I'm not going to lie, like, if that happened to me, I would have just GG'd there and then, like, it's done. my head's gone, it's done. But fair play, stuck with it. He still kept the pressure on, but Sib, after that, it was, he just played a good defensive game, kept Whaz at bay. And like, to be fair, like, I think Sib looked so much more comfortable in map 2 than he did in map 1.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Good champion pick for him as well. Taking on the Visor with the Strog. Like I said at the very start, I started 30 seconds in. I want to confirm it now if we've seen the full game. Good peeker usage.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Apart from the first one.
Apart from maybe the first one, yeah. But after that, we saw a lot of these longer range peekers too, right? And that's something that you usually see, because he would just pull it out and then just fly halfway across the map, just scout a little bit and fly right back home or just take himself out.
No, really completely right. And it was a point I wanted to raise during the game. It was just too high tempo there. We saw great strategies, you say, coming out from Sib. That strength shone through in that usage. The first one was really bad. It caused him his death. But after there, you said there was good scouting. There was that one from the Mega where he did enough damage to Whaz, like full 75, to keep him away from committing for the kill. So you don't realize how important these small moves are. As we move on, Blood Run, which is what I would have considered the home map from Whaz, particularly with the Saw lag. That gives him the best of all worlds, right? He has a huge stack. He's got huge speed. He can do absolutely everything. So this is the map. I think Whaz can take it back to a 2-1.
It's also a matchup that it's not something you see all that often, right? You very often. And he hits the tail too. Down you go, Sib starting perfectly. My God.
What we haven't talked about, however, is Athena.
Yeah.
Because I love this champion, and if you can play Athena, I mean, you can just destroy people. It does. It can achieve feats that no one else can.
There's not a lot of players who play her at the absolute best level, but it looks like Sib might actually be shaping up to be one of them. He's got to be careful though. 4 points of health. That won't stop even if you've got the heavy. And down he goes. And that's what I was going to say at the very start. This is a matchup we don't see all that often. You very often see lights versus mediums or mediums versus heavy, but light versus heavy, that's a nice rail as well. There's such a big stack difference that Sib, even when he picks up like a major item, Whaz off the spawn can still basically take him on.
Exactly. I'm not a... I'm playing, I'm not a fan of picking a light champion against a heavy champion, no matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can outmaneuver them, and that's like your biggest strength, but as you say, if you take a bad shot or whatever it is, you're never in favor. And particularly against a Solag who is so quick, particularly when playing someone like Whaz, you're always under pressure. And so your positional game has to be on point.
It would be a bit different if he was playing up against, like, say, a scale bearer or maybe a keel, because they don't have the same kind of mobility and speed that Sorlag can bring.
Sorlag is just crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Even if you can, like, hook away from her, she just rocket jumps and races around the corner with that air control.
No, she doesn't care. She's just going to fly at you all day.
Absolutely.
That's what Whaz is going to do. So it's really scary. We saw how much pace Whaz wanted to put on the first map. He tried it on the second. Can he make it work on the third?
So far, so good. That stack advantage is enormous. Sip, I think the rail is going to be an important weapon for Sip, right? Doing that 90 peak damage, just quick in and out, and then just taking down your opponent bit by bit before you've got the opportunity to steal an item. That's what he's got to work on.
100%. It's going to be a lot of spam, tribot, rockets around those corners, and then keeping a distance with the rail. But as we said earlier, like Sib cannot let Whaz have a free map. You can't afford against a champion, a heavy champion in particular, to let them get up that stack, because then the momentum builds.
Yep.
And it's almost inevitable that at some stage you're going to succumb to that pressure. You need to make sure you're keeping on top of these timings, just like that, perfect. Getting in these long range positions to deal enough damage where even if Whaz now picks up the item, it doesn't matter. And Whaz is forced to rocket jump in even to get it. Amazing job by Sip. So he needs to keep that up. And this is why it's so difficult now, because that is the type of strategy he needs to keep up for the full 10 minutes. Perfect. Whaz is on the back foot.
Yep.
Clean heavy armor. Great play from Sip.
Perfect. That is like textbook out of control play. Playing the distance game, landing the tribal, doing the rail damage when it's necessary. And Whaz is actually still railable. I don't think Sip knows exactly how low Whaz is right now.
Absolutely. Still. But on the flip side, we have seen Whaz play quite reckless today, but this is one of the maps we've seen notoriously throughout the Quake Pro League that Whaz can play a perfect game on. It's such a classic map, and Whaz is such an old-school jeweler. He knows how to play this map like the back of his hand, and that's why we see a really great defensive game coming out of Whaz so far. Sip pushing in, but understands not to do too much pressure. It's just enough to keep Whaz away. Great royal as well.
Also excellent to force out the spit right there. He knows that Whaz doesn't have that in his arsenal for at least another half a minute. It's gonna be able to take that down a little bit by using the hourglasses, but still, this is an interesting situation, right? You don't expect to see an Athena outstack a sword like this consistently, and another suicide coming out of Whaz. Sip tying things right back up, 1-1.
This is a completely different Sib we saw to game one, where he looked temperamental. He wasn't getting on the major items. He wasn't doing enough pressure on the man. This is a much better player than we saw in the game one, and so we can see him settle down into his groove, and it's done wonders for his confidence so far.
Good use of the hook though, wow.
He's going to push in as well. Nearly got the flick rail, just a little bit quick.
And that's just one of Athena's many strengths, right? Just out of nowhere, your opponent think, oh, she's way back there, she's way around the corner, there's nowhere she's gonna come back. Whoop, there you go, flying through the doorway and going for the cheeky rail. Didn't connect, but still lots of damage coming out. Sip knows this is the one. 2-2-1.
Yep, another perfect use of the grapple there, just for the close range shotgun finish. And as you say, it's so non-traditional. You just don't know what Athena's going to do. So you can't take a fight unless you're 100% confident in your ability to maintain your stack. But at the same time, Athena could just put on pressure out of nowhere, as he does mess up the first one that we've seen today.
Yep, little fumble.
And that means Whaz gets away with a heavy armor. The small things do stack up though, so needs to be careful.
Whaz seems to have a good idea of where he is too. Sip takes a bad rail, and even now he's still going to be railable. He's got to use some of the hooks to get himself to safety. Mega is up, looks like Whaz is in the better position to take it, and now there's one stacked lizard on Sip's tail.
And I mean, we've been speaking about how well Sip has been playing, how much damage he's been doing, which is completely right, but it's only 2-1. It feels like a bigger lead than that. Whereas this time, again, as you say, stacked. Not going to be waiting for nobody.
Sip does get himself the small armor right here, though. He's going to hear the jump pad being used, playing a defensive game, but there's still 4 minutes to go. That's a lot of minutes if you're running away from a sword like with a stack as small as Athena's.
Yeah, it's a lot of minutes, you're completely right. But it's also not a lot of time if you're the one chasing, it feels like.
Yeah.
Sip has done a great job so far of containing his difference. He is stuck now, but does push through that confidence. Whaz not expecting him to come through so quickly.
No, not at all. Whaz was expecting him to maybe try and heal up in the blood pool, get rid of that spit, but Sip was just absolutely merciless, pushing through right there. But look at the stack. Oh, that would have been a sick angle to hit.
But as well as he did in the first 3 or 4 minutes when Whaz has control, he's not been able to have a footprint on the map so far. And this is why we see Whaz's health and armor is through the roof. So Sib, needs to play these angles. Look at this perfect positioning where he's got 2 angles to get out, and Whaz is always going to be the one that's in danger if he pushes in. So we're not going to see Sib make a move on the map until he's confident he's hit 1 or 2 rails.
Yeah, his strategic plays have been really good though. That's what we were talking about at the very start, right? If Sib is going to take this, he's going to out-strategize his opponent, is going to outthink Whaz, and so far Sib's defensive play, his out-of-control style has been perfect, just staying away from his opponents, using those hooks expertly to avoid all the unnecessary damage.
But at the same time, 1 rail per 2 major items isn't enough. He needs to do a little bit more, I feel anyway, to keep chipping away at Whaz. I completely understand why he's not able to get out of the map, and at least if he's not taking any damage himself at the moment, it's fine, because he's forcing Whaz into situations to attack. But as you can see here, Whaz has the pace, and if you're not hitting those initiating shots, you're going to die. So.
But on the other hand, time is ticking down slowly. We've got a little over 2 minutes left to go. Sib might be eyeing up that clock, thinking, you know, maybe I can just do it. But the rails from Whaz, that's going to change his mind. He knows he still needs to have a presence on the map.
Exactly, and he is a light champion, so he is now in a lot of trouble. He doesn't have enough to get out as Whaz is going to push in. Can he get through that teleporter? That's all he needs right now. Whaz takes quite a lot of damage though.
Yeah, actually.
And surprisingly not pushing through. I think, again, learning the mistakes of perhaps maps 1 and 2, realizing 2 minutes is still enough.
I don't know about that one though. That really felt like it should have spelled the end for Sib. That should have been 2-2, but he somehow managed to get out. Whaz building his stack back up, probably confident in his ability to hunt Sib down.
But all it takes at this point is 2 rails. Sib hasn't got enough of a stack, but that's a great fadeaway rail. Sib can't even get a light armor at the moment. He really needs something. And Whaz has found him. But look at the hook!
So now he's out. He doesn't have any more. Does Whaz know this? I don't think so.
That's the power of Athena.
Yeah. Man, this is pretty new meta, I feel like. Athena on this map, just to get away from your opponents that quickly. Not something you see all that often, but Sib making it work.
No, and I think we'll see a lot more Athena in this LAN event, as it is a rather new champion to the meta.
Yep.
I'm sure more and more players have been looking to master her. She can bring stuff out, but we've only got 50 seconds left now, so pressure is on Whaz and pressure is on Sib.
Yeah.
Either one makes a mistake, it's going to be game over.
Absolutely, Whaz. This is his final shot of retaining his spot. He's got 40 seconds to do something to make anything happen at all. And meanwhile, Sib, he's starting to taste victory. Half a minute, staying alive. That's all it'll take for him to get back into the Pro League. Takes a bad rail, can't get out. Whaz, aggressive push, somehow doesn't hit any damage. Sib gets out, 60 points of health. Whaz, can he still do anything? He knows he has to go. He can't take it slow anymore. 3 HP, and Sib lands the rocket. Oh my god, Whaz calling the GGs. How? ZSX, how? Speechless.
Well played, Sib. That was, again, a masterclass in defensive performance. Like Whaz, again, learning mistakes in map 1, didn't want to pressure too much, and as you said on that one teleporter fight, that was probably a more applicable moment to go in, but nevertheless, like, map 2 died to a random ass rail. Map 3 somehow doesn't hit any fadeaway damage in either one of those aggressive pushes, and Sib walks away with, for us, an unexpected 3-0, but nevertheless, a well-deserved victory.
Absolutely, your Sib raw, you heard it here first. He is back in the Quake Pro League, and deservedly so. A 3-0 victory, can't contend with that. I think Whaz has a bit of thinking to do. I think there's so many things that just, like, the stars didn't align for him, right? The missing the exit damage, the rail, the messed up rocket jump, I
mean, it's one of those games, right? It's a 3-0. And every single one of those maps, it could have been a 3-0 to Whaz on another day. There were so many fights where Sib survived right on the crunch with 3-5 health, like every single map, and it was all down to the wire. So another day it could have been a Whaz 3-0, but it was not today.
Yeah, no, today it was all about Sib. Congratulations, we've got Sib back in the Pro League.
Wow. What a matchup. I feel like obviously everyone was very much in the favor of Whaz. That's not what's happened. The storyline has been flipped. Sib has literally come in, flipped the table, absolutely smashed it, and his eyes are set on that belt. Let's take it from start to finish. Let's open up with the opening map. What was your initial thoughts? Did you think this is a bit of a blip? This isn't going to be the full story?
I thought it was chaos.
Okay.
I mean, I personally thought that Whaz wasn't showing respect to Sib on map 1. Like, we obviously understand that Whaz is hugely aggressive and enjoys to play like that, but there were just so many situations where it was reckless to the point of what the hell are you doing? And he did tone that down, but Sib didn't look entirely confident either. I think he was a bit rattled perhaps by the way Whaz was playing, and he didn't have enough of a presence on the map, he felt. But he came away with the 5-4 victory in the end, and that was enough to see him through.
Would you agree, Flea, in the sense it looked like after map 1, it was almost as if like the weight had been lifted from Sib. You could see him play so much more confidently. It seemed really like a night and day difference. Did you feel the same?
Absolutely. We said it during Molten Falls 2, right? We said this is a different Sib. You can tell the confidence, it's all different. He's playing a really clever game using the peeker in all of these innovative ways, just zoning, scouting. I mean, it was a different Sib. Obviously, he was feeling good after that first win. He carried it through, and I think that momentum just kept on building into map 3 as well, right? Even when it's a win, kind of based on something like that rocket jump with Sand Mass flying off the map, it still boosts you as a player. So Sib just ran with it beautifully.
And there was numerous times that we saw the nuances of Sib's strategy come through. We said at the start, like, his strategy is going to beat the brawn, right?
Yep.
And there was things like we saw the quick kill back there with the change to the tribal, the Athena grappling into the shotgun finish. These are small things that a more finely tuned, rounded player will do, whereas Whaz was just looking to brawl. And ultimately, there was the strategy and the positioning from Sib that saw him through in a lot of these situations.
I think that's the one crazy takeaway, right? Is obviously the entire time we were basically saying how Whaz's experience and mechanical skill should be what gives him the edge. But I feel like in reality, what we've seen here today is that was flipped. Whaz was trying to really play aggressive, go in for those fights, and literally win it off of his combat skills, where instead Sib was playing so smart, weapon prioritization was ridiculously on point. It just felt like his mechanics were on another level.
100%. It nullified what Whaz was trying to do, and he wasn't afraid to alter his playstyle and go toe-to-toe with Whaz, particularly on Blood Run. We saw him taking up much better positions, always hitting the opening round, and this is against someone where Whaz was... You would always expect Whaz to win a rail fight, but it was Sib that was coming out on top, and I know we didn't see the damage statistics, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was quite significantly far ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, because I also think that we've been talking about like the brain versus brawl a bit, but Sib he brought it, right?
Oh, yeah.
His aim was also on point, definitely can't sleep on that. Overall, relatively low scoring games, right? 5-4, 3-3, 3-2, so no like real blowouts either way. It was very, very controlled.
I mean, and that's what we said, right? That on another day, you could reverse those scores, it'd be a 3-0 to Whaz. It was, in some situations, unfortunate, but at the end of the day, like, Sib was in the right positions, doing the right things at the right time to make sure the luck was on his side.
Oh yeah, he looked absolutely fantastic. I think it's fair to say he decimated on the server. He backed it up with his gameplay, he backed it up with his mechanics, and he just wrecked face. There is still so much more to come, though. Of course, this is only map 1 of relegation. We'll be back in after the break to continue Stage 2 of the Quake Pro.